Comeback for Vasilev and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing! Off and running in his first appearance for the club!
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and Jose, well, not Jose, because Jose's been out the last two shows. Evan and I told you guys the last two episodes that we may or may not have a match preview show for this Saturday's Red Bull New York versus Philadelphia Union match. Surprise, surprise, here we are live on Thursday, little after 8 p.m. at night. We appreciate everybody joining us. First and foremost, Jose, it's been a while. Hoop, I see you survived the bachelor party. You look to be in good spirits. How you doing?
Yeah, I did survive, though. For clarification, I am happily married. This is a bachelor party for somebody else. And Todd, you know this about me. I can hang with the best of people when it comes to doing activities, whatever. Though 36 holes of golf in 48 hours, probably like the very, very top of what I want to be doing on a weekend. But with a great group of guys celebrating a great dude that I love for sure, it was worth it. So I did make it. I hope I haven't been replaced, having missed 2 weekends on the bounce. I'm not in the injury reserve anymore, so I'm excited to be back. And hopefully you guys didn't buy out my contract to free up cap space.
Yeah, we're getting you a match fitness before you return to 60 minutes this weekend. But yeah, it's good to see you injury free. It's good to see you on the show. But enough of that. We do, as we normally do these match previews, we usually try to bring on a guest from Apple TV/MLS commentators to help us preview these games. And you guys heard him call two of those goals in the intros, like you guys have for the last many months. He is Chris Wittyngham. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, guys. Good to talk about the team that I probably see the most in MLS. This is a home game for me for sure.
Yeah, it is. We've had a couple of guests come on and joke with me. They said, "What makes Chris so special to get two goal calls in the intro?" And yeah, this is the first time having you on the show. Does it get weird hearing your goal calls?
It is. It is a little weird, even still. Especially when they play them on the Jumbotron at the stadium. And that doesn't just mean at Philadelphia, no matter the venue. You're always, hearing, oh, it's that person. Oh, that's that person. Oh, that's me. This is embarrassing now. But yeah, it is a little odd to hear yourself still.
Yeah, I'm happy that you were able to make time to join us on the show. Very busy guy, as I'm sure many of our listeners know, with CBS Golasso, whether it be on the morning footy shows, whether it be Champions League calls, which is starting back up here very, very soon after we just had the draws today. Jose, happy with Man City's draw?
I must admit, I haven't even caught up because we have two kids that are dealing with some weird illnesses that have me through the roof, not paying attention to anything. Who did City draw? I didn't even see, honestly.
So the Pot A teams are Barcelona and PSG, which would be two really good games. And then Napoli was kind of the main Pot 2 team, and the rest of it is pretty straightforward after that. So those would be, but Barcelona and PSG will be some pretty tough matchups, especially if they're early in the Champions League season for City.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know that I'm an Enzo Maresca believer just yet, but we'll see it. We'll see how 10 years of Pep, it's hard to kind of turn that around and keep it going, but we'll see.
You feel bad for whoever was going to take over from him. Whoever was going to take over from him was going to have a tough job.
Yes, 100%. And Chris, I think we should say it, Todd, from the get-go. Congratulations, fourth season of Serie A. That's incredible.
Yes.
That you're jumping on. I think that's awesome. I think it's one of those, alongside USL and alongside the Scottish Premier League that CBS gets. I think Serie A is very much one of those hidden gems of the value of Paramount Plus. So to have you on there and have you on the show, again, just an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to do it, guys.
But before we talk about this upcoming game between Philadelphia and Red Bull New York, I had asked Ryan Richter this today at his press conference, and we'll play the clip a little bit later. I want to get your thoughts though, Chris, because we've seen an influx, I feel like, of homegrown talent amongst many teams in the league. I think most notably is this weekend's game with Red Bull New York and Philadelphia Union, with the likes of Cavan Sullivan, Quinn Sullivan, Frankie Westfield, Neil Pierre, Julian Hall, who just signed a new contract 4-year U22 deal with Red Bull, Mameti. And so a lot of young upcoming players for, many years to come, hopefully for the men's national team with the U.S. And you look at the likes of San Jose, Orlando City, Real Salt Lake. I know, obviously, selling Xavier Gazo to Crystal Palace. I can't remember a time, Chris, if I'm being honest, seeing this many homegrown players just coming through different academies and having this big of an impact at this season in MLS. What do you think's the cause of that?
Well, it's the academy system now bearing fruit. I think when the academy system started 10 to 12 years ago, it is worth noting that, first off, to really get the impact of academy level coaching, it has to start young. So realistically, you have a few years of, I think, on-ramping of really clubs knowing what they're doing. And I think Philadelphia were, along with Dallas, are probably among the first clubs that actually knew what they were doing. And obviously there's been incredible investment from the Philly ownership group, investing in the Union-specific high school and having incredible facilities. And that's why it bore fruit so quickly for Philadelphia Union. But the rest of the league, I think, is really starting to catch on now. There's a level of competition. And I think, honestly, guys, and this is going to sound very American and very capitalistic, but when owners realize, there's money to be made, I think that's when you saw some of those transfer fees. Alphonso Davies' transfer fee. Even I remember the one summer when New England, it wasn't even a homegrown. So one of them was a college draft pick in Buchanan, but they sold Adam Buxa, Tajon Buchanan, and Matt Turner for like around an aggregate sum of $25 million, plus all those sell-ons. You think about Philadelphia, the way that they benefited from the sell-on of, you sell, Brendan Aronson initially for the first fee, but then you get the sell-on of the fee over to Leeds for an even greater sum of money. So I think, honestly, it comes down to the financial incentives of the league. And so if Xavier Gazo is going to go for 8 figures, if Cavan Sullivan, ultimately the fee is smaller than it could have been because of the homegrown situation, Neil Pierre, I imagine, will go for a big sum of money. Once you start to realize there's big sums of money to be had, then I think you really start to see the incentive and the growth going in that direction. But also, it really is the laying down of infrastructure in this country. And I know it's so boring to talk about, it's going to happen over a longer term horizon. And these things take time and you have to allow it to bear fruit. But clubs understanding what they're doing, the academy facilities, the academy level coaching being there, MLS Next Pro existing, all of these things take time to actually produce an environment that is conducive to the development of players. And you also have to take into account the fact that a lot of European teams are now seeing the market for high-level French players, high-level English players, high-level German players balloon to such a degree where if a player under the age of 22 has one good season, a la, let's say, Jan Diamande of RB Leipzig, he's being sold for $120 million, whereas in the American market, there's a little bit more value to be found. So I think teams are now looking all over the world using their data to go and find players. And if the data says there's a really good player playing in MLS, you can go find it. So I think everything is conspiring to all of these teams now having at least 1 or 2 homegrown players that are making an impact at first team level.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see. And I think the prime example would be, Todd, to kind of the wait and see approach. And I think it gets lost on a lot of people, I think us included, as people who are really in the machine every single day following. This league is just over 30 years old. There are teams, and I think there's people who even listen to our show that have shoes and pants older than the league itself, right? So when you think about La Masia out in Barcelona, or you think about, everything that Real Madrid has done, those are teams that are over 100 years old and just have produced talent year over year over year. It just takes time. I'm really intrigued specifically, and Todd, we spoke about this many, many years ago at this point, it feels like, but Charlotte, I think, is going to be a really interesting project when you think about Tommy Wilson, right? The architect of the Philadelphia Union Academy, was it 3 years ago, making the move to Charlotte and sort of revamping the entire operation. And that is I don't think people realize just how soccer rich the Carolinas are specifically there with the Latino population and certainly everything else in between. That I'm so intrigued to see how that develops. So, Chris, I got to ask you, as a commentator, this is just off the cuff question that just hit me. How hard has it been for you in your prep to get the new New York Red Bull New York, way of saying it? Because to me, I clickety clack for MLS.soccer.com, and I still have to like double check my work every time I have an assignment on them.
That's so fun. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because it was actually one of those behind the scenes things that we talked about a fair bit, because the club name has actually always been Red Bull New York. It was one of those things where the actual branding is Red Bull New York, but because of American sports, we're going to call them New York Red Bulls. And then I'm just so used to the fact that, it's RB Leipzig, it's RB Salzburg. Like, you're so used to that it doesn't really bother me that this name change, but it definitely is not a traditional American club name. But now that we're in the FC and SC and, all these different, more European, right, Inter Miami, all these European naming conventions, it really is fine. I got used to it fairly quickly.
Now to my real question, I wanted to get that right off my chest, is you were there at the front seat, if I recall correctly, for Ryan Richter's first match, which was against the very same team that you'll be having the call this weekend in New York. I'd be so intrigued to hear from you, and this is not to demean or insult the guy, but I'm guessing you also had some Bradley Carnell games. I'm intrigued to hear what that prep goes like in terms of your conversation with Bradley Carnell versus Ryan Richter when you're preparing. I'm sure they're both equally just as kind and knowledgeable, but they both have very different styles, at least with us in the press. I can certainly tell you that with, full on. I'm intrigued on your end what that prep goes like between the two, or what was it like?
Yeah, I think from Bradley Carnell's point of view, I mean, we did a ton of their games last season when things are going great. And we talked to Bradley once or twice in the first part of this season. And I think every manager is inclined to project a sense of, we're figuring things out. We're going to get this ship righted. We're going to figure everything out. And ultimately they couldn't. But he never gave off a sense, in my view at least, that things were really slipping behind the scenes. That he always kind of projected a sense of, we're going to figure this out, that this is not going to be a long-term problem. We believe that somewhere last year's team is hiding in this group. But I think one of the things that is ultimately borne out is that his style is fairly exacting and is fairly difficult to execute game on game on game. And he seems, it's now 2 teams now where you have the sample of, did it for season 1, couldn't do it in season 2. And I think there is an amount of, well, can we be a little bit more variable in what we do? And I think there is a little bit of a move away, and this isn't just an MLS or with the Union. It's sort of a global phenomenon where these ideologues that only do one thing, and this is the one thing that I do, are being found out. There are different approaches now to counterbalance what Bradley Carnell's teams do, which is hard press, energy, go, direct balls, quick, don't even think about playing possession. And while the Union still have a fair amount of that chaos ball kind of mentality, there is a little bit more when you allow Cavan Sullivan to touch the ball 60 times a game and let him do things of, well, we're actually going to play some soccer now. We're actually going to play with the ball at our feet and play. And I think that difference would, I believe, be summed up in Cavan, and not just in how well he's playing, but in the freedom that he's been given. And I think the difference, that if you were to make me compare between the two coaches, I would say Bradley Carnell is very rigid and a believer of his ideas. The ideas are the most important thing. Whereas I think Ryan Richter is not quite as precious, maybe too harsh of a word, but he's not quite as committed to, this is the way that we do things. I think the Union have a style of play that goes from the senior team all the way down to the under 12s. We know what the Union style is, but there's a little bit more room for maneuverability. There's a little bit more room for him. Okay, maybe we're not going to go press every single time. Every once in a while, we'll sit back. We're not going to hit the direct ball every single time. We're going to maybe have a little bit of possession and have just a little bit more variety to the game and the freedom. And this is where I think Ryan Richter is a little bit more of a, I'm just here doing my job. And it's not quite as, we're establishing something and it's this big grandiose idea. It's like we go to work every day and we're going to try and play and have fun. And I think that's the biggest thing he's allowed Cavan Sullivan to do, is just go make mistakes. Go do what you do in training. And then when you see it work in games, and we've even talked about this idea of not only is it engendering belief in himself, it's engendering belief in the rest of the team. The rest of the team is now looking at Cavan Sullivan going, oh, he's not only like a good young player, he can help us win games. And I think that's a totally different thing than, we have this really cool, promising young kid that Manchester City called the best 14-year-old in the world. No, it's not about he's the best 14-year-old in the world. This guy's helping us win on the weekend and get results on the weekend. And I think that's the biggest thing that he's given to Cavan and the team is go play with freedom and with joy and enjoy yourself on the pitch.
You got to call the game between Red Bull New York and Philadelphia Union back on July 22nd, Ryan Richter's very first game in charge as interim head coach for the Union. Cavan Sullivan had a great game for Ryan Richter, but it was also the return of Kai Wagner in that game. And since Kai's come back to the club, he's getting assist after assist. He continues to put in shifts defensively for the team. We knew what Kai had to offer for this team and chance creation over the years that he was with Philadelphia. When you were in the stadium with Lori Lindsay on that Saturday between these two clubs, how big of a moment do you think that was for Ryan Richter and those players to, when they're going through the introductions and you hear you hear Ryan Richter's name, you hear Cavan Sullivan's name, but then it's the roar of Kai Wagner. How just rejuvenating do you think that is for that team to hear the roar that had been lacking for majority of the season from the home crowd?
Can I tell you, it is also just really cool that there are fan bases within MLS that remember and value the performances that players put in for their team. Because, I mean, there obviously is this emphasis on the star players. And, ultimately, for American soccer to grow, it has to bring in more people, either people who love the European or the South American game or the Mexican game and decide, well, I really like this sport, so I'm going to go watch it in my local community. Or you're pulling in people from other sports, and instead of buying a ticket for the Phillies, they go and watch the Union. And so there is constantly this emphasis on the growth of the fan base. But I think sometimes it's very easy to forget the diehards that go every week. And the diehards that go every week remember what Kai Wagner has done for the team and remember how important he is and how big of a loss he was in the offseason. And it was great to see that as you say, all the people that could have gotten an ovation that night, that it was him who got it, because that means that there are people in the stands that are going every week and remember how important he is. But yeah, I mean, it's massive. There's a little bit of a part of me, because, we're comparing the two coaches. There's a little bit of a part of me that wishes that we got to see the Ryan Richter team without Kai Wagner, because it's almost unfair to compare the two coaches because that's such a big variable. It's so big that you got a guy who had more than 40 assists over the last 4 seasons from left back come straight into the team. The most amazing thing to me is that he was fit to play 90 minutes and didn't look a step out of pace when he hadn't played at all in the preseason for Birmingham. And then he comes right in, puts in a couple of assists in his first 3 games, and you're going, this is like he never left. And he is able to be a plug and play right into the system, huge part of the team. And he's a perfect, if all else fails, give the ball to Kai and have him whip across him, because it can be that level of dangerous. He's that big of a player getting forward down that left side. So whatever the Union had to do to get him back, it was more than worth it. And he is such a huge part of why this renaissance has happened in the second half of the season. I really think if he hadn't gone for the 6 months, that the Union might not have won one of their first 15 games, and Bradley Carnell might still be the manager. Like, it's that big of a deal. And that is the one thing that was talked about a lot in the first 15 games of the season, the lack of winning and the players that were lost. But in some ways, the players that were lost was not talked about enough, because it's just such a big deal to lose a player who's that good and proven in MLS, knows how to play in the style, does not need a day of acclimation, does not need, Ezekiel Alado, a big money signing, but he needs some time. No, there is no time required for Kai Wagner. He can step right in and look just like the guy he was prior to leaving to the championship.
I'll have you know, Chris, friend of the show, Kai Wagner, just to flex out a little bit, friend of the show, Kai Wagner, who you're speaking about. And listen to your comment on not forgetting players' performances and people that have done a lot for the club, albeit I think, Todd, it might be fair to call it sort of the darkish times of the Philadelphia Union. the laugh I got today with the number of people when your colleague Chris Tom Bogert reported that who was it? Orlando City signed Vinicius Nogueira as a player, and the number of people that said, "Oh my God, I thought it was Vincent Nogueira coming back to the Union or something like that." It's like, "Oh my God, what a throwback!" And, that's when you know that you're
Those
a
are the
real
sickos.
OG.
Those are the diehards that go back.
Those are the ones. I want to ask you about this, Chris, because I put this as part of my match recap / piece for MLSsoccer.com and the first bout between New York and Philadelphia. I felt, and I'm intrigued to hear from you if you felt it during that game and what you think it's going to be like this next time around. But I felt like Cavan played with an extra chip on his shoulder, right? Coming off of the World Cup break, coming off of a very disappointing first half of the season, frustration allegedly from sources I spoke to, frustration about playing time, the family wanting him to play more, agents wanting him to play more, etc. But I really felt like he turned it up a notch, not just because of all that, but because who was on the other side of the field with all the other young Americans who have had their names get the spotlight, right? I can recall writing 2 or 3 pieces about Julian Hall for MLSsoccer.com, right? And sure, we tried our best to highlight Cavan where we could, but in the first half of the season where the Union barely win, it's kind of hard to come up with something, right? Despite us pitching it and whatnot. But I don't know if that jives with you from that first performance. And do you think that that's going to continue? I sense that it will. I'm sure Todd probably senses that it will. But it seems like he's on a mission, especially with what's around the corner here in September.
Yeah, I think with Cavan Sullivan, it really, in my mind, I mean, you can talk about any number of things, right? You can just talk about just straight up, he worked hard during the summer and he did not want to take a break. He wanted to play with the 2 team. He wanted to keep playing because that is the number one thing that a young player can do at this age is just keep playing and keep gaining experience. You can talk about the fact that, as you say, there was this sort of level of motivation that other young stars in the league were, getting their flowers, Mehmeti and Julian Hall being the 2 main players for Red Bull. And hey, I want my flowers too. But I really do think it comes down to not only the manager picking him, but without knowing the exact conversation, it's pretty clear just in watching the games. Ryan Richter came in and said, not only you're going to play a main role in the team. I need you to not just be a guy that does some cool stuff and then the other people do the real thing. No, I need you to go get some goals and assists. I need you to create chances. I need you to do things. And I think for as much as you can say it's a chip on the shoulder, I think it's a responsibility. I think he has the responsibility of carrying the team. And I think that is such a different thing than you're going to come off the bench and play 20 minutes and see what you can do to have some fun. No, you're going to actually be a key starter in our team and a key creative force. And if you look at the Union, the system is always meant to be the creator, right? The counter pressing and the chance you create in transition. I remember, I think Bradley Carnell told us that they had like a moniker for it. They called it CP, was a 25 goal scorer every year, because they basically believe that much in their system that the counter press and the quick chances you create from it would allow you to create up to 25 goals a season. Well, if you're not going to have that, you have to have talented individuals that create, and Cavan Sullivan is that guy. And so I really do think not only does he have the responsibility, he is given the freedom to do whatever you want on the pitch. If you want to go nutmeg someone, if you want to go inside out, if you want to do some step overs, if you want to do some elasticos, whatever you want, pretend like you're a Brazilian in a favela, like do whatever it is that you need to do. Play some jogo bonito on the pitch. And I really do think that Cavan Sullivan is a level of entertaining above most other MLS players. Most other MLS players are not doing what he's doing, largely because there are coaches going, don't do that. That's stupid. And while it may it may lead to giveaways, it may lead to things where you're wasting possessions. I think Ryan Richter would rather have him playing with the freedom and the joy that will ultimately lead to and produce results. And he'll find the things in the game eventually through learning and through trying and making mistakes that will lead to what is happening now. So I think it's responsibility and it's freedom that is allowing him to play so well. And that, as you say, started from that first game against Red Bull.
Let me ask you this, Chris, as someone who obviously is following the league, following the Union, whether you're volunteering yourself or being voluntold to watch and commentate these games, based on what you've seen from Cavan, and I swear we're going to talk more than just him, though it's hard not to focus on him with what he has done in his body of work. leading to my question, do you think his body of work since the return of MLS, Leagues Cup included, has warranted him getting included in the U.S. men's national team window this September?
I do. I think that when you're trying to turn over into a new era, when you're trying to find the next generation, is there any doubt that come the World Cup in 2030 that Cavan Sullivan's not going to be a part of the team? Is there any doubt that he's not playing well right now? I mean, he's absolutely deserving, in my view, of a call-up. If you're looking for the next generation of American player to be a part of the next cycle for the U.S. men's national team, to me, it's out with players like Gio Reyna, who I don't have a lot of confidence are going to be a part of the 2030 World Cup. There are a few other players you can say that were called into the group that I don't think are going to be there. So why not? Why not have the future be now? And honestly, I'd call all those guys. I call Julian Hall. I call Mehmeti. I call Neil Pierre. I would call so many different guys than the players that we've seen and see if they're ready to stand up to national team level. And you have 4 games. That's a lot of time on the training pitch as well. You can learn a lot about a lot of different players. So yes, I really do think that it starts with this camp. And it starts with, Cavan Sullivan maybe getting in a game and seeing what he can do, because I think that would really excite the fan base. I know you're not doing things just to excite the fan base, but also you have to think about future tournaments to come. And ultimately, the next big thing is the World Cup in 2030. And why not start that process now, especially when it is deserved on merit? It is deserved based off of when you watch, I try and watch highlights of all the games at least every weekend and watch MLS 360. You watch a lot of games, you watch a lot of players. Cavan Sullivan stands out. He just does. And certainly in comparison to other American players. So yeah, for sure, I'd be calling him in this first camp.
One person that I spoke with was very clear with me that the flare-up against Inter Miami was actually incredibly helpful for his chances to get a call-up into the national team, just because it shows that he's not, I think it's something that's missing in the American mindset, right? This idea of like, I'm not going to back down the way that South Americans, Germans, et cetera, whenever faced with that type of adversity. I don't even know if that's the word really, right? Like that type
confrontation.
of confrontation.
It's missing. There's a reason why Diego Luna had his moment in the sun is because he played through a broken nose in a January camp friendly. It's clear that the coaching staff of the U.S. men's national team likes that sort of thing, that intensity, that bite, that, almost street smart kind of material where it's not just about, we grew up on nice pitches and we can play the beautiful game. No, like every once in a while, the game involves some dark arts and some fights and some things where you got to be up for the fight. And I think Cavan, like you say, clearly showed that there, as did Quinn as well. And really the entire Philly team showed that they're up for it. They're not going to take any bleep.
For sure. 2 more before we let you go, Chris. Flipping it to Red Bull New York. They've been in a little bit of a rut of form since the last time they played against Philadelphia. Only 1 win in the last 5 games since that match on July 22nd. 5 goals, 8 goals conceded, 0 clean sheets during that time. They do have a 4-4-3 record at home. What's been the biggest difference for this team when you analyze them and you look at them heading into this game for Philadelphia, where, it's polar opposites of the end of the table these teams are going, with Philadelphia only 3 points out of a final playoff spot?
I'd be careful to only go off of the list of results. I think in particular, the game that really stands out to me with Red Bull was their last Wednesday game against Nashville. Man, they had so many chances in that game. It's unbelievable that they didn't win that game. They were so good at creating chances. They just couldn't finish them. And look, that might happen again. And it might be a situation where, they create all sorts of chances and the Union can nick one on the break. But I wouldn't think of the Red Bulls as a bad team. I wouldn't think of them as a team that, are really in a bad way where they can't play good football. I do think on Saturday they struggled a little bit, with a long week. Everyone had a long week. Everyone's struggling. It's the American summer. It's hot and you're trying to grind out games. I don't think Red Bull have a ton of depth. But I do think that their best 11 and their group, when they play really good stuff, especially at home, I would not be thinking of this as, well, you're playing against a team that's in bad form. I think you have to think of it as a team that's well capable of playing really good stuff. Mehmeti dictating things in midfield. Cowell on that right side, although he's dealing with that concussion. He'll have to, be cleared in time for the game. But they've got too many guys that can perform at a high enough level where I don't think necessarily that this means that this is an easy game. Look, the form guide suggests that the Union should go away or can go away from home and get a result. And for sure they can. But I think it's actually a really fun, even game. I thought the first meeting a little more than a month ago, the game got away from Red Bull, especially in that second half. I thought they lost control, particularly of that midfield area. But I don't think that's going to happen again. I think this is going to be two teams are going to be going at it. I think, first off, there'll be goals. I think there will definitely be goals in this game. The Red Bulls give up a ton. The Union are now pretty electric going forward, especially with Cavan leading the way, but Ilowski is capable as well. I think the Red Bulls are too. So I think there's definitely going to be goals in this game, and I think it's going to be pretty closely contested.
Hopefully the polar opposite of what we saw last year at, I almost said Red Bull Arena, Sports Illustrated Stadium, where Bruno Damiani has a penalty saved. Red Bull New York go on and win that game 1-0, ending a 16-game winless run against the Union in all competition. So, yeah, I hope you're right, Chris. I hope we see lots of goals this Saturday at Sports Illustrated Stadium. What call? Are you on the Union call this weekend?
Yes, I'm on the call of the Union and Red Bull on Saturday. So looking forward to being in New Jersey for that one. And also just a shameless self-plug as well. I'll be on the call of Napoli and Como on Sunday in Serie A for CBS.
Busy
oh my
guy,
goodness.
Busy guy. Can we expect a lot of your colleagues at Apple, it seems like, whether it be on the Spanish side, the English side, seems like they're going viral with these booth cams. Can we expect
the booth cams?
Chris Wittyngham,
they're all the rage right now. I have only done one booth cam, and it was kind of like, I kind of had to. It was we did the Milan derby last season. I was at San Siro. So I was like, if we can't do a booth cam for this one, then why not? But yeah, I try and space out my booth cams for the really big ones. But yeah, maybe I'll bring the GoPro with me for this one.
Maybe. But Chris, we appreciate you taking time out of your evening joining us here at the Free Kick, and good luck on the call this Saturday between these two teams.
Yeah, thanks. And as I said off air, first time caller, long time listener. I'm a fan of what you guys do. I try to listen, especially in the weeks before I'm calling a game. It's great. I love, by the way, not just this show, but any show that is covering a team week in, week out. I cannot tell you how you are providing a public good for people like myself who just want to know what fans are talking about, what media are talking about. So you guys do a great job, and I appreciate you guys having me.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for the kind words, Chris. Have a good night.
See you guys.
See you. So there he is, Chris Wittyngham, joining us here on the Free Kick Live. And yeah, for people who maybe thought that, oh yeah, Jose and Todd aren't live, that was pre-recorded, now they're coming back. No, fully live. We know.
It out.
Yeah, 100%. He said, I'm out. I did my 30 minutes. I was told 20-25 minutes at most. And he's like, we could do 30 minutes. I think we got him at 31-ish minutes. And so he said, it's a minute over. I'm out. So yeah, we appreciate Chris's time.
What do you think, Todd? It feels like at this point, we are collecting these commentators or whatever you want to describe their job as. We're collecting them like infinity stones, bro. We're collecting some good ones here in terms of Chris. We've had
Chris Sherman, Devin Kerr.
Yeah, yes, Devin Kerr.
Dave Leno, the voice of the Union. Got to get your boy Danny Higginbottom on the show.
I know. I was texting with him not too long ago. I should have said something, but it was also that weird period when I was in North Carolina. So it wasn't my mind wasn't there.
Well, look, when the Union were good last year, I feel like him and Steve were put on all these Union games. Now the Union not even in the playoffs, and it's like we have bigger fish to fry, Danny, with you and Steve. But maybe the Union continue to stay hot under Ryan Richter, and maybe they change up some assignments. I do know, talking with different broadcasters, everybody has their assignments for the rest of the season. So I would be shocked if we see them say, oh, sorry, we're actually going to cross this game out because we need to bring on the A team or the B team for that game. But you never know. But very nice words that Chris left us. Always a pleasure getting people saying, yeah, we listen to the Free Kick. You guys help us prep. And I think that's a testament to the work that we do, Jose. You and I both think that we do good work for this fan base, covering this team, keeping these fans as informed as possible. We may have opinions that don't align with each other. We may have opinions that do align with each other. Definitely not talking heads for the club, as maybe some people think we are. Because I'm sure there's some things that we would say that the club wouldn't agree with. But the one thing with us is, we're gonna keep it 100. So again, we really, really do appreciate Chris joining us.
You want to know who's a bootlicker? Evan. What a bootlicker that guy, huh? Licking every inch of that thread. No, all jokes aside, man. No, it's cool to have these moments of validation, right? I think about when your hard work was recognized 31 shows ago on air mid game. I think that was awesome, and really the maybe a little too behind the scenes. And I think you mentioned it actually at the beginning of the show when MLS reaches out to us to bring on commentators. It's awesome. It's again another testament to I think the good work that we do, and I would say pit us against any other of the independent media across the league. I think we hold our own weight and carry out our work just as well, if not better. So we do keep it 100. I do want to ask you one final thing before we jet out, because I got to go talk about Stas Korzanowski at 9 p.m. with the fine folks at Rhode Island. What do you make about no MLS in the semifinals onward for Leagues Cup?
I think it's a shocker for the league, if I'm being honest, Jose. I think this is not what MLS had in mind. I think the big talking point was, Liga MX teams don't really care about this tournament. It's a cash grab, blah blah blah. Well, we know the players care about the tournament because of the money aspect of the side of things, Jose. But yeah, a little bit shocking, if I'm being honest, right? Neither league has an excuse. They both restarted their season around the same time. We know the MLS was off for about a month, and Liga MX were also off. And so by the time both leagues started back up, it's kind of getting back into form, back in preseason. So there is no excuses this time for MLS saying, well, or Liga MX sides, I should say, where MLS has been in season for months, where they're just starting up their season. And I think this is just a thing to come, Jose, because we see it in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I know majority of the games were still played in America. I know some games were played down in Mexico. But if we play more games down in Mexico, I think it's going to go the opposite way than what it's went most of this season. And now you have MLS teams losing at home against Liga MX teams. Let's not forget, these teams are traveling from Mexico, going all over the country, which is so odd, seeing where Red Bull New York, some of the teams have had to go to, Chicago they've had to go to for some games. I mean, they're going all over the country, and I'll be curious to see what the attendance looks like for these final couple games. I know there are some powerhouses still left in for Liga MX, but yeah, I think this is an absolute nightmare for MLS, seeing no teams in the final.
Well, I think I mentioned this to you in a separate chat, or in one of our many group chats that we're together, but like, there's nothing more indicative of the confusion that Leagues Cup is bringing than to watch Austin FC against Toluca in Harrison, New Jersey on a Wednesday night at 8:30 at night. It's just one of those things for just like, what? Like, what is, it wasn't competing, let alone, what was it? León against Real Salt Lake in Denver, Colorado. It's like, okay.
Real Salt Lake playing in the rival stadium, mind you.
Correct. Yeah. No, not lost on me, but it's just one of those goofy things where I want to enjoy this. I want to love this. I want to continue to make sure that people realize, like, it's an incredible opportunity to play against these teams from different countries, CONCACAF Champions Cup, the Mexican League, whatever, friendlies. My God, I get so jazzed. I do such stupid shit to make sure I watch some of these games, like waking up at, what was I woke up at 3 a.m. in Seattle to be able to tune in to watch their friendly in Marbella, Spain 2 years ago, but I had to get a VPN to go and watch through a Czech Republic
Slavia
website,
Prague, something like that.
Yeah, so it was just one of those things where just like, man, like when people say walk it like you talk it, I walk it like I talk it, man. Like, I love these international games. I just wish that they would help themselves a little bit more by figuring out this tournament. There are people far smarter than me and you combined, and probably half of the people watching, like, that can figure out this tournament to make it more interesting to people. But whatever they have going on right now just isn't it, because again, for some of these teams to just raise the white flag after some of them even winning 1-0, just giving up, right? It's like, what are you doing, right? And it's just that kind of crazy. Evan, the side piece says the MLS best team in years, Nashville, played their B team for the entire tournament from the beginning. Food for thought. That is food for thought. So yeah, I mean, it's almost like, was it even worth putting apart or separating completely Leagues Cup from US Open Cup? Because MLS teams are still treating Leagues Cup like it's the US Open Cup, right? By doing this resting of players. So I don't know. I don't think we need to go much further than that. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the record and kind of put mine out there too. I love this thing. I watched probably more games than the average person, that's for sure. I'm sick in the head and I get paid to watch them as well. So that's not, again, lost on me on how privileged I am. But even if I wasn't getting paid, I would have watched just as many.
Hey, real quick, Jose, I know you have another show you're doing here in a minute. There was something, so I did want to play a clip earlier in the show about Ryan Richter talking about the homegrown movement. I'll save that. You guys can look for it on social media. I'll post it on Instagram coming up. I know I posted it on Twitter earlier this afternoon, but I did ask Ryan Richter about Agustín Anello. He played a pretty important role coming off the bench against Austin this past weekend. And I know when Evan and I talked about it, what is kind of Anello's best position on this team? Is it up top, like we've seen under former head coach Bradley Carnell? Is it playing on the wing, as we've seen also under Bradley Carnell? And every single time he's come off the bench or started in Leagues Cup with Ryan Richter, he's played as the left side at number 10. And so this is what Ryan Richter had to say about where he views Anello's best position and how he envisions more playing time going the young American Argentines away.
Yeah, I think his best position is probably off the left, but he can do a job up top as well. So, look, I know he was very patient with the minutes that he got to start this season, and what he can do is exactly what he did in the Austin game. He came in, made an immediate impact, and then makes you think as a coach, when you're in this position, who is the right player to put in and who can impact the game. And what he showed in the last game was that, he can have a really positive influence in the game. So I was happy for him, and I appreciate, the patience that he had over the last couple of weeks when he didn't get as many minutes as he probably would have wanted. But he worked in training. He came in and kept his head in the right place, that he could approach the game and come in and make a difference. And that's what you can do. And that's what you can do and make the coach think about what is the best changes to make, what's the best team to start with, and show with your performance that you deserve to be in that conversation. And he certainly did that. But I think our front four that has played the majority of the minutes, we've also done okay so far. So it's not just searching for a change to change. It's we're in a good place. I think a lot of guys are playing really well. Augie did a great job and is certainly in the conversation for more minutes. And we're definitely going to need him, whether it's off the left or whether it's as a striker. It's stuff that we're talking about as a staff, but he's a quality player and one that we have to make sure we get the best out of.
All right. So you can have the final word, Jose. Anything that stands out there from Ryan Richter?
I'm intrigued on how patient Agustín can ultimately be, right? I think words are words until there's action. And I'm really intrigued to see if there is going to be action to make sure that he has indeed earned the minutes. And the team is in such a spot depth-wise that it would be hard for him to not get time. I know it's difficult with Quinn coming back. I know it's difficult for other players who are maybe stepping up. Obviously, Cavan taking this massive role where, back then you would kind of think like, okay, it's Anello and that's going to be it. And then you also have to figure out, listen, they spent a lot of money on these two strikers that are not nearly producing as much as they would want them to. So they got to figure out how to market them in case they want to sell them next season or in between the sprint season, right? In the winter, if they want to move on, or try to just find a spark. Obviously, we saw Bruno get a little bit warm there. But I appreciate that Brian gave a very honest answer. I don't appreciate that, at least I think 95% sure that microphone wasn't actually the source for the sound. I think it was still speaking through a laptop, but I appreciate that Ryan is picking up on this whole media game that we play, right? I feel like his answers are improving. he's pretty honest. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're looking for, but those are my immediate thoughts on that quote.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see. I mean, you heard Ryan Richter saying that whether it be up top or in the wing, he's looking to get more minutes. So I wouldn't mind seeing an Anello and Damiani partnership maybe here in the future. But Jose, we'll talk about Stás Korzeniowski next show over the weekend. You're about to go and talk with folks over, I forget the name of the podcast, but Rhode Island podcast. You're going to go and talk about Stás Korzeniowski, what they can expect for the new 0-1 loan forward. But looking forward to reviewing this game over the weekend. Hopefully the Philadelphia Union continue their winning streak against Red Bull New York. Hopefully they can continue this unbeaten run in MLS as Jose's son, Rafael, first day of school, I believe it was, or second day, one of them, makes a live appearance. But Jose, looking forward to discussing this game with you. Thank you again to Chris Wittyngham, Jose R. Nunez 91 on Twitter, on Instagram, I think. Jose Nunez, MLSsoccer.com is where you can get all of his writing. But if you guys want to follow the podcast, Instagram or Facebook at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcasts, check out at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick, check out the YouTube channel live, every single podcast, youtube.com/freekickpod. Goals breakdown videos also on YouTube. And if you guys want to find goals breakdown videos, the podcast, or articles all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. Again, Static Gauge. Get your merch from them. Love local Philly companies. Static Gauge makes fantastic gear. If you guys are looking to support local Philly companies, Static Gauge is a pretty good place to start. But we'll see you guys over the weekend. But that's all for us on here. I don't know if Jose's going live, but if you guys can't get enough of Jose, then go and watch the Rhode Island podcast he's about to do in 9 minutes. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.